Is Pokemon Unite dead? I saw some videos saying this, so decided to start playing the game again and see if I still actually found it fun. This video is my thoughts on returning to the game after having played it quite a lot recently. Hi, the Historical Gamer here, and this video details my thoughts on the current state of Pokemon Unite. If you open Unite and haven't in a while, then you'll be greeted with menu lag, updates, and notifications. But once you're past that, you'll be thrown into the first level of Pokemon Unite's new solo mode, which, surprisingly enough, is not the same as offline mode. At first, the concept of Unite having solo mode may seem quite strange, as why would a multiplayer online battle arena, or MOBA, which is what Unite is, add a single player mode, which, as I said, is not the same as offline mode. It's not even a better version of offline mode, because you are required to be online to play it. And after you think about it more, you will still find it strange, because I don't know why Unite would have added a mode like this. But I do actually quite like it, and here are my reasons for liking it. Well, first of all, it offers a great sense of progression in something other than ranked. It's split into stages, with generally every stage being one match, and every stage has 3 objectives. This lets you progress through the selection of stages, and gives a sense of completion from completing every objective in every given stage you do. Or at least you can do that if you want to. It's not required, but it does offer some pretty good rewards, including tokens to upgrade your character in solo mode, giving them things like damage boost or health boost, which also contribute to the sense of progression that solo mode provides. Gives the game some much needed variety, with solo mode containing the map for ranked matches, but with both Groudon and Kyogre, as well as some of the solo mode maps and game modes. It even includes boss rushes, where you and your entire team of CPUs have to work together to take down, in the case of the stage I played, 3 super powerful boss Pokemon within the time limit. And then there's the fact that even in ranked, you will find lots of lobbies full of just attackers, all-rounders, and speedsters, with not many defenders or supports. With solo mode matches, you can play something other than defense or support, and have a balanced team still, as your 4 teammates in any match will generally all be different Pokemon types, and the type that they leave out actually changes per stage. But in the case of the match I'm showing, nope, I still had to play defense, as that was the class they left out, and it is very satisfying having an exactly balanced team. The last reason to like solo mode is that the rewards are great. There's tickets, item enhancers, limited licenses even, but most importantly, license journey points. If you haven't played in a while, you should know that these are a newer addition, and Unite's new way to unlock characters. To be clear, the paid currency of ASOS gems has obviously stayed completely the same. ASOS coins, on the other hand, are gone. They are completely gone. You got these from just playing matches, and by getting enough of them, you could buy a character, generally about 10,000 of them for one character. When you first stopped being able to get them, you could exchange them for license journey points, which I did, but now the window to do that has closed, so if you have some, they are now completely useless. Instead, you earn license journey points from solo mode and the game's new battle pass, which you progress from, guess what, winning matches. The main difference is that with ASOS coins, you could completely choose what you buy, but the license journey is a ladder, or a journey as they call it. For every stage, you get a Pokemon, which is great and pretty similar to the way that ASOS coins functioned, except that you don't really get to choose what that Pokemon is. The game is either decided for you, or gives you a choice of about 2 to 4 Pokemon depending on what the level is and what Pokemon you already have. I don't know how I feel about this. Personally, I think I dislike it more than I like it. It does as a sense of progression, which seems to be the direction Unite is going in, looking at that and solo mode, but I don't think it's worth it for the trade-off of the player having less choice of what Pokemon they want. Instead of being able to work towards a Pokemon, you just work towards the next slot on the ladder, which may not necessarily be the Pokemon you want, which might have you spend more time on the game in the short term, but if you don't respect the player's time, the player will eventually leave. This is why I believe, in a game like Unite, it's better to give the player a choice in the matter of what Pokemon they want to unlock. This is made worse by the fact Unite isn't a new game, so you'll likely be annoying older fans. Something I really quite appreciate is that all of the new releases have been available as events, that being the legendary birds and the Johto starters. Instead of free-to-play players having to get to a special selection on the license journey to get one of the new Pokemon, you can simply get them from grinding an event. Didn't particularly know how they worked, but I was able to get a temporary Feraligatr license from this when I did figure it out. But let's also look at what the Battle Pass is, because I mentioned it earlier and it's also new. It's another thing which adds progression to the game, surprise surprise. Like the license journey, it's essentially a ladder, which as you win, you get higher on. It should be noted that since this is a reward ladder, you can't drop points, and this is not a multiplayer thing, so you're not competing with other players. Unless you have the premium battle pass, in which case you get things like Hollowware, you just get item enhancers from the battle pass, and occasionally you will get license journey points. This will help you get new Pokemon. And that's the battle pass. Now let's talk quickly about ranked. It obviously has its normal issues of rather strange matchmaking, and even when I moved from Great to Expert class, full teams of attackers. Especially given how repetitive it is, it's really fun. Especially so if you decide to play with some friends. One thing it isn't though is intuitive. Before going into ranked, or maybe after a couple matches, I'd recommend looking at some strategy videos. Just one or two if you're a returning player who, like me, just didn't particularly know how to play before. I personally recommend Spraggles as he's the person I got my videos from. Now, the biggest change in Season 35, where the majority of my playtime was, I know it's Season 36 now, is that we now have Kyogre instead of Groudon, which I do know that change has been there for a while, but it was my first time experiencing Kyogre, and I do prefer the big fish Kyogre to Groudon, as I find that Kyogre is harder to take down. This means that it doesn't just become a damage sponge in the middle of a team fight, and instead an actual boss. I also do prefer the citrus berries, which give you health back, to the green berries which increase your movement speed, which I don't know the name of, for which berry is in the center. Increased movement speed does feel better for jungle fights in the middle of the game, but when you're fighting Kyogre, you do want to be able to heal up before a team fight, and I think I value letting a player do this more than having an interesting middle in this case, though I don't think I have the knowledge to be able to say which one is better, just which one I prefer. Another change is not being able to decide your moveset mid-match. At first, I absolutely hated this change. Afterwards, I realised this change is actually quite good, because first of all, it reduces the amount I panic during a match. Second of all, it forced me to actually look at my Pokemon menu and find out what my Pokemon's different moves do. And I didn't actually know abilities were a thing in this game before the change, meaning I had to look at the Pokemon menu. I also believe forcing players to decide in advance means that the game has more strategy to it. Speaking of singular movesets, something I'm absolutely not a fan of, though, is the fact that the new Pokemon have only one moveset. I understand that you can create a more curated moveset for the Pokemon, but that's not what's happening. Or at least I don't think so. From what I can tell, what's happening is that they are trying to get Pokemon out weekly, so don't have the time to have multiple movesets for them. I'm no expert in keeping players' attention, or MOBAs, but I still think it's better to give the player the choice, and I'd much rather have a Pokemon come out every 2 weeks or every month, in return for getting 2 movesets per Pokemon back. Apart from that, the core of Unite's gameplay has stayed almost completely the same, but my experience has improved. Why? Because I looked at strategy. I realised that the combat was much more than spamming. I realised there was a level system. I realised you could buy more held items and upgrade them, and that this game requires far more skill than I would have realised for something in Pokemon which isn't VGC or Smogon. I absolutely love aiming moves like Flame Charge, Surf, or Extreme Speed now, and finding out the best time to use them, not only in combat, but as mobility moves. So is Pokemon Unite still enjoyable? Yes, it absolutely is in 2026. If the game is dead, then I have no clue why players are leaving. If you haven't played in a while, I absolutely think you should play a couple of matches. Maybe you'll find the same thing that I did, where a couple of matches spirals into a couple of weeks of matches. And please comment if you want to see more Pokemon Unite content. Goodbye!